Let me go ahead and start introduce our speakers for this evening. And first and foremost, I'd like to introduce our moderator, who comes to us from a variety of backgrounds. He's Christopher Kunney, who's going to moderate tonight. Currently he's our senior strategist for emerging healthcare at AT&T. So with that, I'd like to introduce Christopher Kunney, and he's going to be our moderator for tonight, and he'll introduce our speakers. Thank you, Chris.
Good evening. Good evening. First of all, happy Healthcare IT Week for those of you who are healthcare IT professionals. But I'm so happy and honored to be here this evening to moderate what I hope and really believe will be a great discussion around wireless technologies within the healthcare IT space. And we've got a wonderful, wonderful panel here this evening that will share a tremendous amount of insight. So we have the honor of having one of the leading healthcare IT leaders here with us this evening to offer some insights. Praveen Chopra is the Vice President and CIO for Children's Healthcare of Atlanta.
Thank you for inviting me here. So today, we're going to talk a lot about 802.x and the N and the G standard, and there will be a test afterwards. I will talk a lot about end, not the means. To me, I think wireless is a means to an end. I was thinking about, should I really talk about the wireless technology, or should we talk about the problem we are trying to solve? Because that's what we focus on. And we're in a healthcare setting, and we're trying to solve a problem. I think we are at a very exciting stage in time within healthcare. And I will share with you a perspective on the journey that we have taken over the last 5 years and where we are headed. With that, a little bit about Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. We are one of the top 5 children's pediatric, standalone pediatric hospital in the nation, right here in Atlanta. Did you know that? We have almost 740,000 patient visits, and we are the largest pediatric emergency provider in the nation. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, I think about care without walls. So think about virtual environment. People say, you know what, every time I need something, we need to go to the hospital. So that is how we started talking about it. Then they said, hospital is going to become obsolete. Most of the care will be in an ambulatory setting. Guess what? We have a growth in ambulatory setting, but hospitals are still here. So healthcare is becoming increasingly complex. And if you think from consumer perspective, consumers are becoming more aware of healthcare. So think about from the retail industry, we're becoming more aware there is more demand coming. So consumerism is changing the landscape. So what we started talking about 6 years ago is that really what we need to talk about is care without walls. So when I started like 5 years ago, we were like best of the breed and one thing here, one thing here. It's like in the closet, someone says do that and we did it. We made a decision to go with the integrated electronic medical record. So this is the color shows what we have done. We have accomplished a lot. And guess what? The journey is not done. You will see things like foundational. Master patient index. What is master patient index? It is analogous to social security number. Like every patient that comes to you has to have a unique ID. You would think it is very simple. It's not simple, guys. It's really, really complex. Medical record journey. But that is the community health record. So now you see that blurb out there. Integrated EMR on the left. We did it within the children's boundary. Now, the Holy Grail, business intelligence. So what I would say, in the 5 years, what we wanted to accomplish is, in a very simple way, get to a stage where we create a solid platform for transformation. So we spent 5 years, think about it in a simple way, automating things, streamlining, simplifying, process improvement, so that we can capture the data around a patient. We can provide a great experience to a patient. It doesn't matter whether a patient comes in from a physician office or they come in a hospital. they have the same kind of experience. We have the same kind of look and feel. This year, early in this year, we started our transformation journey, because now that we have rich data, how do we harness the power of data and translate that into information? And I say, if you can take information to enable wisdom, that's the holy grail. So we are at a different journey of business intelligence. And the simple way we talk about it is, I would say we are probably in the extension phase. I see that in a 4-phased approach. Right information, right time, anywhere. And anywhere is the change, because we are living in an increasing mobile environment. And I would tell you, and I was thinking about, let me show what are we doing with mobile technology. Guess what, guys? I'm leaving that to your imagination. The opportunity is immense. But what I would encourage you is think about, in healthcare it is a context, is how can mobile technology help solve a problem? If you try to sell a product, we will not be successful. If we try to solve a problem, and then you say, by the way, I have this tool set which is going to help you solve your problem, guess what? You got my attention. And what better place than healthcare to deploy this technology to solve the problem? Because at the end of the day, we feel good. We're making a difference. So with that, would
Before we start, I want to just see by show of hands, how many folks are actually work for a provider, for a hospital, healthcare system, doctor's office? Anybody in here as an actual provider, works for an actual provider? Now, there's an interesting trend that's taking place right now. According to the Global Mobile Health Market Report 2010 through 2015, that was compiled by Research to Guidance Corporation, more than 1/3 of the 1.4 billion smartphone users by 2015 will be running some sort of healthcare mobile device on their smart devices. For vendors, much of the revenue will actually come from remote sensing devices. So it won't just be your cell phone, but it'll be some devices monitoring some portion of your health or the health of your family members or loved ones. The report also went on to say that the potential benefits of mobile health applications have been widely discussed for more than a decade, but we're really at the point where these technologies are now really becoming a reality and taking off. Both healthcare providers, consumers are embracing these devices now, and there are now more applications for doctors and clinicians to now use that actually bring value and the quality of care that they deliver. So that being said, we've got an esteemed group of panelists that I'd like to introduce. His responsibilities range from product development, prototyping, engineering, and industrial design. Please join me in welcoming Chip Standifer to the podium. We've already met Praveen, so I won't reintroduce him. He now leads the development and execution of global business technology strategies, champions advanced technology development and research activities for GE. Matthew, join the podium. And finally, last but certainly not least, and has actually the shortest bio of the entire group, 4 bullets, is Rick is Rick Allen. Rick currently serves as executive vice president and CIO for Gwinnett Medical Center. So join So, it's really interesting what's happening in this industry right now. It's in D.C., as I mentioned earlier, and just the tremendous amount of energy that's going on right now in healthcare. It's really becoming a tremendous driver for the economy. Today, it's about 14% of GDP and estimated to be well over 20% within the decade. And so it will become an integral part of the engine for this country as well as for around the world. But that being said, there are a number of challenges and issues associated with healthcare IT, and specifically with wireless technology. Given this trend in mHealth, what are some of the challenges you foresee in your current environment that could impact your ability to effectively manage this rapid growth in mHealth technology?
Well, I come up with a good answer. I think the biggest thing is the tools and the framework to manage and to move into to leverage the new technologies. You've got new things coming about. I mean, technology is evolving really fast. Things are moving from Windows-based. You're in that post-PC age now. This is what everybody's telling you. The tablet adoption and everything else. So you're moving from things that we're used to managing, we're used to dealing with, we know how to deal with, and everything's going now to smaller devices, to devices that can be carried anywhere, and you have to provide secure, full access to everything from those devices, and we just don't have we don't have what's needed to be able to get there.
Thank you. Praveen, you have any comments on that?
I have a simple answer. I think the device and standards explosion. There's so many disparate devices, so many standards, and then put that in the context of what's happening within healthcare. Even clinical equipment are moving towards different standards. So application aspect is good, that we need to go with really good mHealth oriented application which will solve problems, but we have to streamline the standards.
And let's stay on the lines of standards and what's going on in the industry right now. And I'll pose this question to Chip and Matthew. And I'll start with you, Chip. As the FDA considers further guidance for mHealth applications, how do you see regulatory oversight affecting your organization's ability to deliver mHealth applications?
Well, I don't see it affecting us very much, but we were the first FDA-approved Bluetooth device, and our correspondence with the FDA was used to generate the wireless guidance that preceded the recent app guidance that came out. So we are already a medical device, so from our standpoint, we already know the standards we have to build to. I think for someone who's building applications like an iPhone-based medical app, for example, they face a lot of challenges because they don't know the software development requirements, the validation requirements, or how to do a clinical trial properly.
Yeah, I agree. In my space at GE Healthcare, we develop patient monitoring systems. So devices that sit at the bedside and detect physiological events and send life-critical, mission-critical alarms to clinicians. And we also create products that send that information and data to the EMR and other systems throughout the hospital. But it's hard to put your hands around exactly what is a patient monitor these days. And it's not only the device at the bedside, but it's also the central station, it's the servers, it's the infrastructure. And when we look at regulation, really the goal for the FDA is they're trying to minimize the risk of these systems. And one key area is the infrastructure and the wireless system. So as there's new applications that come out to mobile devices, there'll be clinical decisions made off these devices. But it's not just those devices that need the regulatory oversight, not regulatory oversight, but risk management oversight when it comes to where that data source comes from the physiological acquisition, all the way through the analysis and distribution of alarms or real-time information. I just spoke to a few doctors yesterday, actually some healthcare leaders, and they said, in these days, my specialists at night are traveling from hospital to hospital when needed. There's such a crunch on whether it's a cardiologist or a radiologist or whoever it may be. And if I could just have that data pulled up on my phone or my iPad before I drive to the hospital across town, I might be able to quickly assess the situation, either provide guidance ahead of time before I get there or get the necessary information I need. So I think our hope is when we look at providing some of the clinical information through mHealth is increasing the quality of care by just providing information at the doctor or the specialist when needed, or the clinician.
Just a couple of quick things. One is to take it a step further. We've got the same thing in place where the physicians can access that information. Over the past 6 weeks, we've actually rolled it out where they can access it from their phones and from an iPad and from any of the mobile device operating systems. So now you've really taken it from something that they have to be sitting in front of to something they can take with them anywhere they want. So they can be sitting in a restaurant, get a call while they're on call, be able to pull something up, get information, and push back information to the nurses for care quickly. The other piece of it is taking it past the care providers to the patient. Part of the ACO is managing the health of the patients. One of the big things with that, you send somebody home from the hospital and you say, "Here are your meds. Go home and take them." Measure your blood sugars once a day, and you don't know if they're doing that or not. Being able to put some tools in place or some offerings in place to be able to monitor what's going on in the home and prompt them. Be able to call them once a day and ask them if they're taking their meds yet, and be able to pull back a response. So now you're managing that population a little better, so your outcomes get pushed up because because they're actually adhering to the treatment protocols.
At the same time, though, let me just expand on. It's a double-edged sword.
Right.
When you provide that information at the clinician, you start to add and put a more burden on them. They have today different apps and distractions when it comes to mobile devices because it is at their fingertips, it's beeping and buzzing. If you've been in a hospital before, and hopefully it's you haven't been there long, but if you've been there, you hear beeps and buzzes all the time. I've heard doctors refer to that as the acoustical wallpaper of the institution.
Any other comments?
I would say the topic M-Health is really good because we just take healthcare for granted. Is that correct? You hear about healthcare, but there's something funny about that. That assumes that you're going to be sick. Healthcare. I'm just saying health, the wellness component. So what we are talking about is the health management of, in our case, with children.
Well, I don't think the health record on an iPad is any different than the electronic equipment that's in the room with the patient. They teach the clinician to look at the patient, not to look at the equipment that may be around it. It may be alarming or putting out different signals. So I think, as you said, it will eventually disappear into the wallpaper, just like the equipment does. I mean, it sings an alert. You go in and you look at the patient. You don't look at the machine. When the patient's sitting up there eating his lunch, then you realize the battery's dead on the machine, and that's why it's alarming.
To the points that they were making, that's where we're going. I mean, but you have the where you are right now. And the where you are right now is people are uncomfortable with that. But as the younger generations, like you said, with the teenagers and younger today all have their own personal devices. They don't deal with paper. They don't deal with. They expect you to walk in texting and talking and doing everything else all at once. So as that generation comes up and becomes a consumer of healthcare for us, not for children's, that's when we'll start really seeing some adoption and things change.
All right, I want to thank our speakers. We have to wrap it up now. I appreciate it. Let's get a round of applause for our moderator.